Dear students, a lot of big things happened in 1919. For example, in that year, the failure of China's diplomacy at the Paris Peace Conference triggered the Great May 4th patriotic movement. Besides, the education industry witnessed great changes. Beijing Normal University abolished the system of school supervisors under the call of lifting the ban on women. In the autumn of 1919, Peking University, Nanjing Normal University of Higher Education, and Lingnan University began to recruit female students. There were a lot of big things that happened this year. The event I'm going to talk about next also occurred in 1919, but it is not recorded in your history textbooks. In 1919, in a citrus orchard in Chaoshan, Guangdong Province, a citrus tree sprouted a yellow tip, which looked like a yellow dragon wrapped around the treetop. At that time, fruit growers never imagined that the yellow shoot would destroy the whole orchard in just a few years. This is the earliest documented case of citrus Huanglongbing in China. Because of its climatic and geographical conditions, Guangdong has always been one of the traditional, dominant producing areas of citrus in China. In the peak period, Guangdong's citrus planting scale reached 5 million mu. However, since the onset of Huanglongbing, it is shown from the investigation of relevant departments every 10 years on average that there is a concentrated outbreak period of Huanglongbing in Guangdong, which directly leads to the fall of citrus-producing areas in Guangdong and gives Guangxi an opportunity to become a rising star. Of course, in the face of Huanglongbing, the situation in Guangxi is not much better. According to incomplete statistics, since the 1970s, due to Huanglongbing in Guangxi, more than 1 million mu of citrus orchards have been destroyed, with a direct economic loss of more than RMB 10 billion. In addition, citrus yellow shoot is also a monster worldwide. Nearly 50 countries and regions, including Asia, Africa, Oceania, South America, and North America, have been tragically affected by it. And the healthy development of citrus Huanglongbing is seriously restricted by citrus yellow shoot. On one hand, the treatment of citrus Huanglongbing is still in the critical stage, and no good cure has been found up to now. On the other hand, citrus Huanglongbing is highly infectious and can spread throughout the orchard within a few years. According to statistical data, if one citrus is infected with Huanglongbing in the first year, 4 citruses might be infected in the second year, and 256 citruses might be infected in the third to fourth years. If not treated, in 4 to 5 years, the whole orchard will be completely destroyed. Today, let's learn about citrus Huanglongbing. Citrus Huanglongbing is caused by a gram-negative bacteria confined to parasitic within the phloem and capable of infecting a variety of rutaceae plants. Since citrus Huanglongbing is similar to the symptoms of other diseases and is difficult to diagnose, the best control period is often missed. Therefore, I will teach you 3 tips today to easily identify Huanglongbing. 1. Huanglongbing. The typical symptom in the early stage of Huanglongbing is that the newly sprouted treetops do not turn green, and one or more shoots in the dark green crown turn yellow, forming prominent Huanglongbing. In autumn and winter, Huanglongbing are in particular obvious. Mottled and yellowed leaves. The leaves on the affected shoots are hardened and have no luster, but the old leaves at the lower part of Huanglongbing are still normally green. There are generally 2 types of yellowing on the affected leaves. That is, uniform yellowing and mottled yellowing. Uniform yellowing generally occurs on autumn shoots after the temperature drops in autumn, and the leaves of new shoots do not turn green and gradually yellow uniformly, which mainly occurs at the periphery, top, and sunward side of the crown. Mottled yellowing is an uneven patch of yellowish-green leaves with very irregular mottled locations and shapes, and no clear boundaries. Fruits citrus Huanglongbing fruit has two types of symptoms, namely green fruit and red-nose fruit. Green fruits are primarily characterized by not turning color at the maturity stage. Large and soft fruits, or small and hard green fruits. However, the red-nose fruit mainly shows that the fruit turns color unusually from the pedicel at the maturity stage, while the top of the fruit turns color slowly and remains green to form a red nose. Please note that such coloring is abnormal. Normal fruit coloring should start from the citrus navel and then slowly turn to the surrounding peel. A small number of citruses start to color from the sunward surface and then to the periphery. In fact, coloring is a phenomenon of tissue maturation. If a fruit colors from near the stalk first, the stalk will maturate early. So the fruit is easy to drop early, right? The red-nosed fruit will look like this: an orange end and a dark green end, and look like a bucket or pear. The fruit will become obviously smaller. Even if it bears fruit, it will taste sour and have poor quality. Generally, in the field, identifying red-nosed fruit is the most accurate and easiest method for anyone to recognize Huanglongbing. Through the three methods, I believe that you can identify the citrus Huanglongbing. However, if the disease is not obvious at the early stage, but is suspected to be Huanglongbing, it is suggested to send the leaves of suspicious plants to a special quarantine department for testing to determine by molecular biological method whether it is Huanglongbing. The disease shall be detected early to facilitate early control. So, how is Huanglongbing spread? As we have mentioned before, Huanglongbing is caused by a bacteria confined to parasitic within the phloem. The contact between ordinary leaves and shoots is generally not spreadable, and the internal parasitic bacteria cannot be spread without external force. How do you think about the external force here? Yes, it is mainly grafting and the insects with piercing sucking mouthparts. For Huanglongbing, the piercing sucking mouthpart insect that transmits the disease is Citrus psyllidae. Then, let's look at the occurrence conditions of citrus Huanglongbing. There is a source of disease in or near the orchard, that is to say, trees with Huanglongbing. There are vectors in or near the orchard, that is to say, citrus psyllid. Citrus psyllid can carry virus after feeding on diseased trees for 5 hours. The shoots in the orchard are not neat, and tender shoots can sprout at any time, which will attract citrus psyllid to feed and spread virus. In addition, disease seedlings or scions are the main cause to long-distance spread of the disease, which can often turn disease-free new areas into diseased areas. Citrus Huanglongbing is a devastating disease, and our control methods need to be comprehensive and diverse. One plant quarantine. Strictly implement the quarantine system to prevent the introduction of diseased seedlings and spikes into disease-free areas and new planting areas. 2. Agricultural control. Cultivate disease-free seedlings. Strengthen cultivation management. After each greening of shoots, insist on comprehensively inspecting the plants of Huanglongbing. If diseased trees are found, clear the orchard first, then cut down the trees, and then properly handle the diseased tree pockets. Dig out each diseased plant found to leave no residual plants. Adjust the cultivar structure of fruit trees, and do not plant Rutaceae plants, such as wampy and orange jessamine in the citrus-producing area, so as to prevent the transfer of hosts of Citrus psyllidae. Reconstruction of citrus orchards in the diseased area. Remove diseased and old trees in the whole area. Clean the environment and plant short-term crops for 1 year before planting citrus. 3. Chemical control. Chemical control is mainly to control citrus psyllidae. Spray pesticides for the first time during the germination period in March to prevent imagos of citrus psyllidae from laying eggs in the bud gap. Strengthen orchard cleaning and spraying in winter to eliminate citrus psyllids with poor activity during the overwintering period, which is the key to control throughout the year. Finally, it is worth noting that the regions with severe yellow shoot must be subject to unified control. Because yellow shoot is a highly transmissible and destructive disease, as long as one orchard owner does not care, the control of other orchards nearby will be finally in vain. Well, that's all for today. See you next time!